Welcome to Heist. I'm Bradley Hackworth, joined by Jonathan Ems, otherwise known as Doc. And this week we are covering Grandma's Boy and Predestination. So, Doc,
Well,
any starting thoughts?
do we want to jump right into it, or did we want to? Because I remember last week we wanted to do like a warm up banter, maybe rethink last week's shows.
Why don't we just get into it?
Let's just get
Grandma's
into
Boy.
it. All right.
Let's hit that statement because I'm curious what
Okay.
your
So you
statement is.
really okay? All right. So I have a prepared statement for
Mm-hmm.
the audience members because after watching this movie, I had a lot of very complicated feelings, so I felt the need to write them down to make sure I got it all right.
All right. What do you got?
All right. So Grandma's Boy. First of all, Brad, thank you for assigning me a film that not only features Linda Cardellini, but features Linda Cardellini wearing almost exclusively lingerie with a sport jacket over it, because she is a business person. But it was a top tier Linda Cardellini experience there. That said, this movie had all the hallmarks of a Happy Madison movie: racism, sexism, ageism, classism, and just a sprinkling of homophobia. But it was missing the one key ingredient: Adam Sandler.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what voodoo magic Sandler possesses that makes this shit work, but apparently he's the only one in the world who has it, and he was conspicuously absent from this movie. If not for Linda Cardellini and Playboy playmate Heidi Hawking, this movie would have been unwatchable.
Oh. Oh. Okay.
Controversial statement, knowing that based on what you said about the poll, we probably have some Grandma's Boy fans tuning in. But yeah, I stand by it.
Probably. Yep. Okay. Wrong information. That's my bad. However, I gotta say, seeing Shirley Jones playing an 80-year-old like mega slut was hilarious.
Well, there was no lack in performance here. It reminded me of um, Bryan Cranston. He said this a few times in a few different interviews. I've heard him say this multiple times. He has said that if I have um, grade A writing in front of me, it is very, very easy for me to give a grade A performance. But if it's grade C writing in front of me, I have to work really, really, really hard just to give a grade B performance. The writing in this movie was grade D, and they collected some of the top talent that they could find who bent themselves into pretzels to barely deliver C grade performances.
I really wish I had the time to actually watch this movie again this week because, man, the million miles of disagreement. Because, like I said, like Doris Roberts showing up in this and how much fun they have, because this is like, I would put this as a movie where, yes, you have some pretty staunchly top tier actors who can give really strong performances and all that just shed every bit of give a damn and went out there and just had an absolute ball.
Oh, I have no doubt that everybody
Which
had
is
fun.
what makes it so much fun to watch, is how much fun you can tell that they had making it. I know because I watched this movie within the last year, so I do know that I still enjoy it. I don't know how much of it may be attributed to nostalgia or things that I can relate to.
Okay.
Because the 35-year-old man like that still lives at home, constantly playing games, stuff like that, and or not still lives at home, but that situation happens. You
Right.
go back, and then you're in that situation. Doris Roberts cleaning out his bong and all the water, and then putting flowers into it. Like watching the old ladies wind up accidentally getting high because they came into the weed and thought that it was tea.
Yeah.
This actually, because I never saw Freaks and Geeks, I think this actually was my first sighting. That's a weird way to say it, of Linda Cardellini.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed this because when we were younger and Adam Sandler movies were coming out and all this stuff, this was the movie that I wanted. I do
Hmm.
like Adam Sandler, but I did want to see what they could do without him. I wanted to see how much fun it would be. I wanted to see how charismatic they would be. I wanted to see if Adam Sandler really was the glue that actually held the entire thing together. And the thing is, if you are straight up an Adam Sandler fan, then this movie definitely not going to work for you. Like, if you like his comedy, you like the formula, you like the people he's worked with, all of this,
See,
it's a movie for you.
that's the funny thing. I got a weird like love hate relationship with Adam Sandler. Like I really like when I like sit back and I break down and analyze like his movies and comedies. It is really like low hanging fruit, low brow, not at all creative shit. He
It's
somehow
goofy.
pulls it off. He makes
Yeah.
me laugh all on his own, and I don't know why. There, you know, and part of it I think too, because even when you take like when you even add in something like Punch Drunk Love, where he's like playing serious and it's a dramatic role there, and how well he pulls that off, you kind of you can't help but respect him as an actor and know that the talent is there for sure. It's not just a gimmick. Um, but yeah, that's the thing is like it's like I liked Little Nicky, I liked Happy Gilmore, I liked Billy Madison, and these were all essentially the exact same movies. But for some reason, without Adam Sandler in them, it's just not funny.
See,
I didn't like any of it.
to me, this was like Grown Ups, but not the A list.
Mm,
This was like the B list version. Like all the actors that like really come in to make like most of the great moments in the Adam Sandler movies are these guys coming in with one liners, feeding a line, and then Adam Sandler reacting to it. Those are almost all of the great moments in the Adam Sandler movies is the team that he has with him and how they react off of each other. You go back, you see Waterboy, huge all over that.
hmm
Longest Yard, it wasn't these guys, but it was very heavily reliant on what was happening to the others and Adam Sandler making a crack about it.
And I
So,
think that's kind of I think that's kind of it. Is that to a certain degree, part of it is Sandler himself kind of like reacting to the audaciousness of even when he's playing an himself audacious character like the Water Boy or Little Nicky, he's still also at the same time weirdly the straight man in the whole thing and makes it all work. This guy, whatever his name is, he did not pull it off. Like he was trying to do the Adam Sandler role, but was not pulling it off. He was just coming off like a generic asshole instead.
oh, definitely. Yeah, I remember that. I remember thinking that this guy was like, I had a hard time rooting for him.
Mhm.
Like, that was the thing. Like, I didn't actually root for the characters, but I did enjoy what I watched. Seeing young Jonah Hill is just always a joy because this was even before Superbad.
I remember laughing about it too because, pardon, the first scene that Jonah Hill's in, he's kind of in the background, doesn't say anything. So at first glance, I'm like, oh shit, is this his first movie? He's just an extra in it? And it wasn't until he came back a couple scenes later and actually said anything that was like, oh, okay, no, he's really in this movie. So I thought that was kind of like a weird little Easter egg. I was like, oh my God, and Jonah Hill as an extra. This is crazy. But no, he wasn't. That was just fake out. He was just a minor character that didn't deserve an actual introduction.
Disagree. He made me chuckle. Like these,
No, no, no.
like a lot of these characters,
From
like
from
every
the view
single
of the
character
movie,
made me chuckle in this movie.
from the view of the movie, he didn't deserve an introduction. He just
Oh,
sort of appeared.
gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah.
No, like that was the thing. There was not. Yeah, no. Even the old lady, was it Shirley? Who is she? Shirley Knight. Uh,
Mm.
like when even she gets a couple chuckles out of me. No character at all got yeah, I feel like every character in this movie got it, and I think that's what this movie kind of was. It was like all the side characters, all the like the actors that have taken like all the side roles and stuff like that. It
Mm.
was like their movie, and they got to take a higher position. They got to do more. They got to be a bigger part of it, because I can't think of any other movie that these guys actually got a bigger role in.
No, that's true.
They've just been playing second and third fiddle to Adam Sandler, and they've
Wait,
made a career out of it.
yeah, and that makes sense. And to a certain degree, like I can even see where Sandler's motivation would be to be like, hey, no, you guys deserve your own movie without me sucking up all the oxygen in the room. He's totally the kind of guy who would do that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like whatever complaints you may have about Adam Sandler, you know the dude knows what side of the bread his butter is, or however that fucking phrase goes. My mom says it, and I don't know why.
I don't know that saying. That's a new one for me.
I know where my bread is buttered, or something like that. So I can't remember.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's the one. Okay, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. That actually sounds familiar. The other one sounded like a idiom that like got lost in translation.
I was losing it there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing. Is Sandler is not. He's not so full of himself as to not know who he owes for his rise, and he has made sure to pay it forward to everybody. So I would not be surprised if Grandma's Boy literally was just him repaying all these dudes the favor of making him a star.
But I also, this is one of those movies that you kind of think they just went through and like, I dare you to do this. You're not gonna do this. I bet you won't do this. Like
I would not be
that stuff.
I would not be shocked. I mean, Rob Schneider's character. What the fuck was even the point of that? I mean,
I don't even remember him being in this. I remember David Spade's character.
David Spade's character was a little bit out there, but he was not as bad as Rob Schneider. Rob Schneider was the landlord that kicked him out at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, right.
They
take his testicles and you would remove him.
Right.
Yeah, that guy.
There was absolutely no reason for Rob Schneider to play that character as the most racist caricature of a Los Angeles Arab that he could possibly pull out of his failed SNL ass. I mean, my God,
if that wasn't Rob on a Schneider,
yeah, if that wasn't on a dare, I don't know.
I'm sorry.
I will. There is one exception to that rule. Demolition Man. He was perfect in Demolition Man. That's the only time I've ever approved of Rob Schneider is Demolition Man. He was spot on, perfect cast in that one.
You may have missed the mark on this. You may have missed the time on this, but Surf Ninjas.
I deliberately, actively, and by choice avoided that movie.
Bad choice.
I'm happy. I'm happy with my life choices.
Some of the best stunts, like the fight choreography, everything like that, they do not belong in that movie, but they are in that movie. Like that, because that was when I was a kid. Jean-Claude, Jackie Chan, like my action guys, they were my guys. So
sure,
if a movie had a phenomenal fight sequence, I was there. Also, growing up in North Dakota, yeah, if a movie had the ocean, I was there. Islands, surfboards, like colorful fruit beyond the color red, I was there. So this is a little bit rough because you hated the movie, so I know you didn't take notes, and it's been too long since I've watched the movie.
I did. So hold on, I did take some notes. I'll be right back. Hold on. I put them on that desk over there.
It's gonna be a little bit tougher without notes. I'm not gonna lie.
Because I can keep this going. I can complain about this movie for an hour and a half, no problem. I can do that.
Oh, I know you can, but I know that we have some viewers that love it, and I don't want to just be like, your movie sucks, like.
Okay, let's see here. Jonah Hill's background. I mentioned that. The grandfather clock bit, waking him up at 6 a.m.
let me.
I can relate to that. I'll give him that one. I can relate.
Not knowing how to turn off the alarm clock and okay.
Because my grandparents had the same thing. I would be spending the weekend at my grandparents' place, and they had a grandfather clock that started going bong, at 6 a.m. loud enough to fill the house, and there was no sleeping in after that. So yeah, I related to that. I got that. Clearly whoever wrote this movie still was in good terms with their actual grandparents, and that was pretty prevalent throughout this entire movie. You could tell that came from a place of love. Real quick, the basic premise of Grandma's Boy is you have
35-year-old Alan Covert playing Alex, like Coburn or something like that. It's like really close to his name, I think. But they start off the movie adult gamers, heavy potheads, and they're getting evicted from their apartment. Rob Schneider plays the landlord coming through, and I want to grab this actor's name because he is one of the Happy Madison crew, and he is in literally everything.
Oh, you're talking about the other roommate?
Jonathan Loughran, or Loughran, I can't remember, or I don't know how to properly pronounce his name, but he is one of Sandler's crew. Jonathan Loughran and Alan Covert, playing Alex, are in this scene. They're playing game, just very immature, very irresponsible, and you notice this. And you got movers come through the landlord, played by Rob Schneider, who is playing a very racist portrayal of your pretty much local LA landlord. I want to say racist, however, he didn't look like Rob Schneider, but I pretty much rented from that guy. You just shouldn't have had Rob Schneider playing him.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like that's pretty much, that's the only problem, because I had 3 different landlords when I was living in LA. That was one of them. So I can't say it's not accurate. But as he's going through, and you even get the explanation, like every month I give my roommate hundreds of dollars of my money, and he goes and does it, and he cuts to Jonathan Loughran, and he's crying. He's like, I just love Madam, whatever. I love so like. That's you like
Also,
yank you crank for the right money and all that. They're like, you're a hooker, and he just like freaks off, being super immature, everything like that. Like, it tells you what this movie is within the first 5 minutes of this movie.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
But one thing I do remember, I just clicked. The opening credits were a lot of fun for this movie.
Opening credits.
They were done in like the old school video game. Original Mario against Donkey Kong and Galaga. Like,
I honestly don't remember it. It didn't leave that much of an impression on me, I guess. I don't remember it at all.
Surprising, given you are basically the same age as this character. I figured a lot of these references were actually going to come through.
Yeah,
but I know a lot of these references were made up, so there's also that. Transitioning, he goes from there, he's cruising around trying to find, and you get the introduction to basically all the other characters. He goes into work. He goes into his office. What was the name of the building? Owned by Mr. Robot Man?
I don't remember.
Now, when I say Mr. Robot Man is played by... Let's see. I can't remember his name. Is it... Yes. Joel David Moore.
Portland's own Joel David Moore.
Oh, is he a Portlander?
Yep.
That makes sense, but I did not recognize that. Now, for anybody who's checking this out, he is when I say Mr. Robot, he is the man who goes like this, and he talks turd nuggets and all this stuff. Like, he really made some choices with that, and I gotta love how much he committed to that.
And I'm right there with you on that. You know, that's the thing. I mean, this dude is extremely talented. We've seen him in other stuff. We know how far he can go, and he definitely made some very, like, you know, the scene later on when he's crying and he's got spit coming out while he's crying, like, that was a definite choice. That's something that you don't
the finger
think
on the mouth and all that stuff. Like, you know, he played a big ass little kid, and he did perfect.
Yeah, and you know, and like I said before, it's like, this is, you know, he is an A-list actor and a grade A actor.
One of the reasons that you probably didn't like this movie, it was kind of attacking a bit of your personality.
Just a bit.
A little bit. I get that. Because I'm thinking about it, because JP, a lot of the stuff that makes me laugh so hard about what JP says is regular conversation I had in Portland. Do you want to come over and hang out tonight? I'm going to watch the special features on the new Buffy DVD.
Exactly. This entire movie, here's the thing. And here's another note I wrote down. This movie felt like it was written by the same writers as the original Reefer Madness. 90% of the jokes are, you know how those people are.
I got that. I felt that. But I also felt like, but it's one of those things. Well, I can't joke. I can't make black jokes. I'm not a black guy. I can make gamer jokes because I'm a nerd. I can make like Marvel and stuff like that. I can rip into my people because those are my people. That's one of those things. This felt like it was kind of like the guys over at like Screen Junkies and Cinema Sins and all that stuff. They tear into every movie that they watch, but they love all these movies. Like that was the feeling I got.
And see, I didn't get that. I felt like it literally was, and I realize that this is an overused phrase, but I can't. I'm currently at a loss for thinking of anything better, so I'm just gonna go with it. It felt like the entire movie was punching down. Kevin Nealon's character was the only punch up of the whole movie. Everything else was punching down. It was punching down at gaming nerds. It was even punching down at potheads, which I thought was weird considering it's clearly who wrote the movie.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's when potheads make fun of potheads and everything like that. When they do their impersonations of how they were when they were high or how their buddy was when they were stoned and stuff like that. This is a party movie. This is very much a party movie. Tune in. You can look at it for 2 or 3 minutes, get an instant laugh, and then just kind of tune out.
And maybe it would have been better. Like maybe it would have been better in 5-minute increments or something like that. Like maybe if a scene came up all by itself on TikTok, I would have enjoyed it more. But yeah, as a whole movie, I just found myself just getting.
But like when
I felt bullied. I'm just gonna be honest. I felt bullied by this movie.
Really? Okay. Wow. Oh, that's rough. Like Doris Roberts, her whole performance, never seen her do a performance like that. So it just it felt like coming off the heels of Everybody Loves Raymond, probably going back into a lot of regular stuff. This felt like a huge breakaway.
Oh,
that,
sure.
And also, seriously, Shirley Jones is Grace.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Grace may have been my favorite part of this movie because she was just diabolically hilarious at every time. She played the straight woman around every corner, and it was hilarious. So I know where you're talking about with like the homophobia and stuff like that, with like the gay jokes that she made on him and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
However, accurate. I mean, you can't love one movie for being accurate about something and then hate another movie because it's doing accuracy as well.
I mean, I suppose.
Exist.
Okay. I still don't feel like
the getting up in the middle of the night to go because your grandma has like all this food and everything like that, and then just putting it on and put it in the stove, and then like going and getting high and coming back forgetting the gloves because your dumbass only uses the microwave because you don't know how to do anything. Little details like that really set me off the deep end when I was watching this. I remember because that's what the movie was. You're watching an idiot. We were just talking last week about watching Fools and stuff like that because it's funny.
Well, and
this is just a group of fools.
Well, and that's the thing. That's kind of what part of like set me off is because that was inconsistent. Like, yeah, they're a group of fools that are also weirdly ingenious. Like as this movie's going on,
doesn't that seem kind of accurate?
Well, work with me here.
Okay.
So every time there's any sort of semblance of a conflict, save for what finally, in the last like 10 minutes of the movie turned out to be the real conflict. All these setups,
definitely movie magic conflict because real world, this is a movie story.
But there were all these other conflicts set up in line that effectively turned out to be nothing burgers because they almost solved themselves. Like, okay, so he's gotten kicked out of his apartment, and he just, oh, by the way, luckily he's got to go to his cousin's wedding that apparently has nothing to do with the movie. It's just where he is when he runs into his grandma, who says, by the way, my roommate just died. You can have her room. Problem solved. He didn't even have to make a fucking phone call. And then when he gets there, hold
on, because I remember that. Mm-hmm. She said, she offered the room because she knew about the situation.
Yeah. While he was
Okay.
at the wedding, he was telling
Yeah.
people at the wedding what had happened, and it got back around to his grandma.
Was it? The only thing I remembered being discussed at the wedding was when he was hanging out at the table full of little kids and teaching them how to get past the level. That is the only thing I remember
Yeah.
from the wedding.
That was the beginning of the scene, and then the second part of the scene, like after he finishes telling the kids how to break the level, and the kids all give him a standing applause at the table, his grandma walks up and says, "Oh, good to see you. Thanks for coming. I heard you were having trouble. I've got a room." And that was it. That was the scene.
Maybe you're not the fuck up in your family. Like that, like maybe like because
I don't know if that's true.
like because I think that's where this like
I'm the
like,
only
a lot of
I'm,
this hits me.
I'm the only member of my family not currently working on a farm, so
because like if I go to a wedding in my family, like, like what of that, I'm not hanging out with them. I'm going and hanging out and I'm having fun with the kids. I'm making them all laugh. I'm gonna have fun with them because I don't care about the adult drama. Like it's stupid. 90% of it is all manufactured and it's not fun or funny at all. Kids are funny. Kids are fun. I would rather spend my time making them laugh than listening to somebody who's really bored with their life just manufacture some drama. Which is pretty much, I mean, holy crap, at my wedding, I had, I'm not even going to say who it is because it's like, but they just kept going around talking about how they might get divorced and all this stuff.
At your wedding?
At my wedding.
Jesus.
I had so many people
Classless.
afterwards come to me and be like, dude, what is up with these people? And I'm like, I'm just glad that they didn't bring it to me. Like,
I mean, I
but that's the
in
kind
my
of thing I'm talking
family's
about. You don't get that when you just go and you go make the little kids laugh.
Okay.
So I understood where he was coming from, but also because he's a fuck up, he didn't want to be around the adults either. So like there was a lot in that scene that did not get explained that I just kind of took as what was happening, and like because like yeah, you lost your place. Your job, I mean, it's a fun job, not a great job, not a high paying job, none of this stuff. You're not like high power, like for your age, probably embarrassed. So why would you spend your time with the people who everything that comes out of their mouth is basically going to be comparing themselves to you?
Well, and so see here, this is where the conflict goes. Okay.
Yeah.
So he basically lucks into the room, like rather than calling up any member of his family and saying, "Hey, I'm on hard times. Can I crash at your place?" Which I get, like you said, could be he's the fuck up of the family and he wasn't in a position to go around asking for favors. Yet at the same time, once he does get the offer from the room from his grandma and he's in his grandma's house, there is zero baggage there. That is a loving grandmother and a loving grandson. No arguments. No, by the way, I remember the time that you killed my dog when I was a kid. Like literally no issue between. She never gives him shit about
You
just
wanted
playing the
that,
video games.
yeah.
Like there is literally no reason. Like their relationship is like a perfect grandmother grandson relationship. If that were me, she would have been the first person I called as soon as my landlord showed up at the door. If that
yeah, but he's this dude. He is coming from smoking weed. I mean, I don't know what it like. He didn't have a love life at the beginning of the movie, but there was at least the opportunity for that. Something like there was the freedom for that. Why would you want to have your grandmother in the next room while you're a single man? Now
and no, that's true.
So he goes around and he tries all these other people and everything like that.
One other person.
No, he winds up. He actually stays at one other person, but he did ask other people, and then the one guy's like, "Why? So you can come on my mom too?"
Oh, right. Okay, I remember that.
Because I remember that, so I know he at least asked another person.
Okay.
And then he winds up staying at his office one night. Like, there was yeah.
Okay. All right.
But
so there was some avoidance
there. There was no conflict and everything like that. But
yeah,
she wasn't the conflict in this movie.
Well, again,
he was.
And that's where I'm getting my next point. So again, first potential conflict, he needs a place to stay. Solves itself. Second potential conflict is now that he's moved in there, these little old ladies are basically like, now we got a big strong man, we need him to do some chores. So he's got the loud ass grandfather clock waking him
Also
up
accurate.
at 6 a.m. and he's, having to get up and do all this work around the house, and that's eating into his ability to do his job. He's not getting enough sleep. He can't work his hours on the game testing, that sort of thing, which I don't understand why he can't do it at the office. But still, the point is
Well, the
that
amount of levels that
just
they gave them, it was like the deadline is coming through, so you got to imagine they're doing it at work and then at home at the same time, because it was they were pushing the game back into development because it was overdue.
Right. But my point is that just as that conflict starts to build up, he buys an illegal cable box, gives it to his grandma, and they sit there and watch TV, and that solves the issue. And that literally as fast as we've come to realize this is a problem, the problem is now solved.
Yeah, but I think you missed it though. Every single time a problem got solved, the solution created a new problem for the entire movie. He hooked them up with the TVs so they didn't have so they would be distracted and not ask him to do chores.
Right.
Then because they were on the TV, he couldn't work on the game, so he got distracted by that. Then he got them addicted to Antiques Roadshow, so then they got on that, and he gave them tickets to hit Antiques Roadshow because they were coming to town. That conflict after conflict after conflict after conflict after conflict throughout the entire movie, and every single solution led to another one. So I don't think anything actually solved itself because the entire movie was just an ongoing problem.
I suppose, yes. But that's the thing, is it just kind of felt anticlimactic every time. Like every time a solution it was presented, it felt anticlimactic. It felt like I've been robbed of actual story.
You're not a big fan of Broken Lizard movies, are you?
No, I love Broken Lizard.
You like Club Dread?
I liked Club Dread. I liked the first Super Troopers. Slam and Salmon was not great. Didn't enjoy that one much. I have not seen Quasi yet, but I've got it. I've got it to watch. But yeah, no, actually, no, I really did enjoy Club Dread.
Weird. It's like everything that you're ripping this movie on is like in that movie. Just different, just performed slightly differently.
And maybe that is the big deal. I mean, like I said,
because I'm kind of wondering
Adam
if you
Sandler
like
being conspicuous from this.
Like if these were actors that you were overly familiar with, and then you saw them putting on these characters and putting on this performance, I'm wondering if you actually would enjoy this movie more knowing that they were performances and not just assuming that this is just them being themselves.
Except it definitely was them being themselves. The two main guys were definitely being themselves, and I think that's kind of.
You mean Dante? Who's
Dante.
the other main guy?
The dude that was in the onesie when we first see him with the race car bed.
Nick Swardson?
That's him. Yeah, that twat.
Okay. I'm not a huge fan of his comedy. It doesn't really land on me at all. However, that character is not Nick Swardson. There are elements of him in there and his stand-up comedy and all that, but shit. Nah, that he was letting it go. He was really committing all the way to the bit, and I think he did it like in a believable way, which is what made it seem so damn natural. But very few times have I seen him play that level. A lot of insecurity, a lot of goofy, everything like that. I see that. But this performance of Swardson, I don't think so. Can you spot out one that is like it? Because like I said, he plays like irreverent and goofy and like it's like off the fucking walls very often. But
I'm trying to remember what else I've seen him in. I mean, I know he's in all the Happy Madison movies, yeah, but I'm just like, he's not coming to mind. Like,
I don't know, like I
yeah.
said, I loved JP's character, how goofy he was with that because
Hmm.
like, and I can get how some people might feel a little bit attacked by JP's character. I can understand, but that's why I find it so damn funny. Which is like if I watch if I same like if I'm watching a movie where like everybody in the room like when we were in Portland they were all laughing and stuff like that, but it kind of
Hmm.
twinged me a little bit. Everybody would just look at me and go, "Oh, don't be so sensitive" and everything like that. This is basically the same thing in reverse.
Hmm.
Like it's talking about the Buffy mega fans, film like the filmmaking going all the way diving hardcore into it, emulating the Matrix, um, acting like acting you're like a robot, wanting to like survive not off human sustenance. Holy crap! There are quite a few people I know that basically, if they had their dream come true, they would be JP, or they have the same dream that JP has. I'm only human, but I'm working on that. Like I see that, and like, and I get it. It's hard to laugh at yourself.
And
That's
it's
why,
not. And
like the
it's
way I said,
not.
like when like in some of the movies like that we would watch back in Portland, and some of the things would come up about farmers or about country boys or about soldiers. Like literally any one of the 30 things that I am,
Mm.
like there was never any sympathy that came out the other side. So I guess my sympathies are a little bit low on that one.
Okay. All right.
Him celebrating literally everything that he did, JP.
Mm.
Like he changed the color of something, and then he got on a Segway and then went around the room in his robot voice going, "I am a genius." All of that stuff. We all know people who quite literally do literal like next to absolutely nothing, and they will throw themselves the biggest parties for it.
Yeah. Okay.
So there were a lot of like these characters had a lot of character in them, and I can see how that would be wildly distracting. It's also a teen movie. Like when this came out, it was trying to get the draw for teenagers. Goofy, funny drugs, a little bit of boob,
Mm.
just goofy
More
and
than
all
a
that.
little bit. Okay. Those were award winning for crying out loud. Like,
And I'm guessing Jonah had a decent time making
oh
this
yeah,
movie.
that's probably the moment he went, okay, yeah, I want to be an actor for a living. Yeah.
Yeah, no, like he's sitting there. I'm a movie star.
Hmm.
Um, he's not like
Well, and
I wish he would have not lost his sense of humor, but I do kind of understand it. I've seen some of his interviews, and I get it. But
and that's the thing is like to a certain degree, even especially in that crowd when we're talking about like the the LA like pretty decently successful crowd. They've had a couple of you know Happy Madison's had a few decent hits at this point. Sandler's become a superstar, and they're all like riding along there with him. I
mhm.
would not at all be surprised, honestly, if not to a certain degree, every single thing that happened in this movie actually happened in real life to these guys at some point. Um,
As much
but
as
yeah,
I want to think the world is literally that interesting,
well, not all at once,
I doubt it.
not within a span of a week like it did for this movie. Like it was probably, is probably over a span of like the entire like maybe starting like a couple years before they got their first break. There's just a collection of all the weird shit that has ever happened to them every in their lives all at once.
Because okay, so as you know, you never saw me treat a service worker or anything like that with any kind of disrespect.
Hmm.
Server, doesn't matter. Like
Right.
that's you've never seen that. However, when people have taken me to vegan places, I've had the urge. Like I've been in that situation, and I have this person talking to me. Literally, no, like they can completely tell that I am not in my element here. I have questions, and every single thing that comes out of their mouth is just condescending and a little bit mocking. And it's like, I want to hit you with some tofu.
Yeah.
But I just sit there and just be like quiet and respectful because that's who
I've
I
been
am.
there too. I have been there too, and even in the same respect as this, where it was business, I had, a boss take me out for lunch to a vegan place, and I had to sit there and grin and bear it, and because it was a free lunch from my boss, I just had to accept the fact that it was going to be vegan.
See, I
Um,
don't know if I would have like I would still ask questions, even if I was with my boss, even if something like that was going to be like, look, like this isn't my thing, this isn't my palate. Is there anything that you can recommend for somebody who is used to eating meat and all of those savory, delicious, wonderful flavors? Like,
yeah, no, I
I
didn't even
would
bother
still
doing
try
that.
to find my way into it, and the whole way it's like, you silly little meat eater. It's like, oh really?
I get,
Like,
I'm right there with you.
I'm not I'm not going to be the initial asshole to somebody, but I'll rise to the occasion. Like that's not much of a problem. Like that seems
No,
like that's
I'm definitely right there with you on the fact that of all the offensive stereotypes that were in that movie, Spade's character was definitely the least offensive.
okay. I see that. And even Linda Cardellini is like, thank you, and he's like, yeah, you were nice.
Mm-hmm.
No, like I get that.
Well, because I think at a certain degree, and the credit to David Spade, um, he did add some actual character to his caricature, as opposed to Rob Schneider, who just did a caricature. It was a night and day difference there.
I Man, Rob Schneider made me laugh when I was younger. He did. And sometimes I go back, I see some of the stuff, and he still does. Rob Schneider is one of those that what came out of his mouth off the stage has completely painted every character that he plays. And I just can't, like, every time I see him, I am just constantly annoyed with him coming up and talking about the Nuremberg laws. I just
Mm,
can't get that out of my head. He has completely ruined like every character because of how far he goes to that.
it is fucking weird, man.
And
Like, how does
now I
that?
have like some of my very staunchly conservative friends will still send me clips of Rob Schneider doing stand-up comedy, and it's awful. It's terrible. His
Mm,
jokes aren't even funny. Like he's not even trying to be funny anymore. It's just I'm gonna make fun of liberals. That's and it's not and not in a funny way.
yeah.
Like my conservative side, oh, there's plenty you can make fun of me on. My liberal side, there's a bunch you can make fun of me on. Like, that is just what it is like to be a human.
Mm-hmm.
None
Oh
of
yeah.
these ideologies are perfect. It's just how it goes.
Right.
You should be able
And
to laugh
and
about it,
and
though.
maybe that's kind of what it comes down to, is that, well, you know and maybe that's it, like, I was not, even though usually I am, like I said, I have enjoyed the Happy Madison movies before.
Yeah.
I wasn't the target audience of this one because I was the target.
Mm, that's a good point. That's a really good point. I am not the target on this one. Like, I was the target audience. Maybe, maybe this is, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Although I will say,
hmm.
there
I
were
didn't really
two
think about
things.
that.
There were two things that I think is interesting about the movie that does make it. No, just one thing, um, and that is,
Can't even give it to.
I tried.
Oh, yeah.
One thing, and that is that this is a movie that was made at like the height of weed controversy. Like, weed is very, very much still illegal when this movie was
Mm-hmm.
made,
True.
and
True.
the legalized weed movement was just getting started, so it was a very, very touchy subject.
Ah, come on, man. You got hippies screaming legalize it in movies all the way back from the early 90s.
That's not a movement. That's a character. The actual
But the
movement
movement, I
didn't.
mean, the character was representing the movement, though.
I suppose to a certain degree, yes. But my point
I'm,
is that this was a movie that was in a time when people are trying really hard to, when your pro legalized crowd is trying really hard to kind of prove how a non-issue weed smoking is, how it is just a thing people do. Boy, this one went the other direction. This movie was very much like, especially who was the dealer's name? Dante? Was that? Yeah,
Dante, yeah.
that Dante was the dealer. Like, holy cow. Dante practically was
Fried
pulled
his
right from the
brain.
Reefer Madness drug den scene. Like, he was almost spot on for Ralph in Reefer Madness. He absolutely was the look what we can do to you. It can turn you into this fucking guy who is hanging out with a racist African caricature that we're only kind of sure is real.
I. That was because I didn't have time to watch this movie this week, and I really regret that. I just checked in on a couple things. That actor basically plays that character in everything. Like, if
Okay.
like, let me.
I mean, I mean, yeah, I guess that makes it okay if it's his choice, but still, I mean,
His name
it's
is Abdoulaye Ngom, and let's see, plays Mfana, Dikembe, Nescobar Alaplap, Masabu, Father Shakalu, Sailor. Wait, isn't that his name in Grandma's Boy?
Doctor something.
Yeah, it's Dr. Shakalu. Oh my god.
He plays the same
That
character in more than
he
one
plays
movie.
the same character in we talked about this before where he played like in That's My Boy with Adam Sandler and Andy Samberg.
Oh, right. Okay.
He literally plays the same character in that movie. It's Dr. Shakalu.
It's the Happy Madison universe. So,
I guess, but no,
is
like
it?
like yeah, Zake Kintaka, Kip, like that is basically his entire career. Mamede. Oh, he was in George of the Jungle.
Okay.
Huh. I didn't see that one coming. I don't remember him from there. All right. Well, I'll give you the option. We can keep bashing Grandma's Boy for a little bit, or we can kick it over to Predestination.
Let me see if I have
And
any
this
other
week's
notes. I
episode
feel.
is going to be a little bit shorter.
So you remember when weed was illegal? Covered that. Um,
I'm surprised you didn't have more to say about Linda Cardellini.
she she looked good. She did okay. Um, she did as best she could with your basic. I don't think they wrote her character. I think they just sort of let her play her character, and she did pretty good on that.
Tough to
Um,
say.
Grandfather clock. I covered that. Yeah, that was it. I've said everything I had to say.
Well, I think it's safe to say Doc is going to give this a uh-uh.
No,
That's what I'm catching here. So, Doc, go ahead, give your wrap
but
up, and then I'll
I,
follow
I,
up.
I think that's kind of we're going to eventually reach the point where people are going to see our divide, and there's going to be folks who identify more with you, and there are going to be folks who
Clearly.
identify more with me, and they're gonna know if it's a movie they haven't seen. They're gonna know if you liked it, it's their kind of movie. If I liked it, it's not their kind of movie. If we both liked it, then holy shit, it must be like the greatest thing ever made.
It must be good. I mean,
Hmm.
like, because we both liked Master and Commander, but, like,
Hmm.
definitely not a movie for you.
Right, but I can
Uh,
respect it.
yeah. We both liked. What was the movie? Or we both liked The Paper.
Yep.
So, and I'm going to go ahead and
I
give
am. I
that a
am.
great one.
I'm obsessed with the paper. In fact,
Fair. Um, We both like Bound, but I'm not gonna go back and watch Bound again.
Okay.
Like, so, like, if we both find one that we land on that we both agree is a rewatchable, we both liked, then yeah, I'm gonna have to say that's probably a pretty spectacular movie.
Yeah.
But because of the differences in our life experiences, because of the differences of things that we pay attention to, and all of those things, that to me is something that I think is a good draw for the channel. Because honestly, if we just agreed on everything, it'd be really boring.
Right. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. So I've actually missed it. Did you give your wrap up on Grandma's Boy or no?
No, oh, no.
Okay, okay.
That
I was about
that
to
was
say, did I,
that
did I just space that?
I guess that basically is my wrap up. Is that you liked it? I didn't. I'm sure folks are going to be able to infer whether or not they would like it. I'm not going to suggest anyone see it, but then again, that may be all the reason anyone needs to see it. Is if I say it's not worthwhile, that may be a great reason for you, and that's fine. I'm okay with that.
That's not. I say it's definitely not a must watch. However, it is an enjoyable watch. If you're sitting down to sit with your family and you're looking to actually like dive in on a really good story and something that you want to talk about, this ain't it. If you're sitting down on Saturday, Sunday afternoon, you got nothing going on, and you're just really looking to get a few chuckles, see some actors that you recognize doing some really bizarre and funny stuff, and fun stuff, not just funny, then this is a movie for you. You want to see what Happy Madison is capable of doing without Adam Sandler? This is a movie for you. If you're like me and you enjoy the side characters that pop up in Adam Sandler's movies and you just want to see a little bit of them doing their thing, then this one is for you. But it is very far from a must-see. Turducken. The amount that you're laughing makes me think you actually got that.
No, I did. I did. Yes. That is, I was not expecting that. It caught me by surprise by how apt it was. Jesus. Like I was going to say a lot to unpack here, but you said it with one word.
Predestination, written and directed by Michael and Peter Spierig, if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Also written by Robert Heinlein. This movie is based off of the short story All You Zombies, written by Robert Heinlein.
Right.
So, Predestination, starring Ethan Hawke, Sarah Snook, and Noah Taylor. Now, most of you are already going to know Ethan Hawke. I was not overly familiar with Sarah Snook because I have not watched, what's that? Procession?
Oh, Succession.
Succession. Okay, so she's one of the main.
I haven't seen Succession either. This was my introduction to her. And
okay.
Wow.
Same.
What an introduction.
Same. Yes. Very much so. Also starring Noah Taylor. Now, little bit lesser known for most people, but for fans of Game of Thrones, he's the one who cut off Lannister's hand.
Right, that's right.
Yes. And I think it was the episode The Bear and the Maiden.
I'm trying to remember. Hold on, I need to check. You continue. I gotta check something on him.
Wow. Checking on what?
I think I've seen him in something else before, but I could be confusing him with someone else. So I've got to check real quick if he's who I'm thinking of.
Oh, go! I'll cover this.
Continue. Yes.
So the opening credits, very, very simple. You have Ethan Hawke in his very familiar grumble voice kind of going through and saying stuff. If I could put the man responsible for ruining your life in front of you and you could get away with it, would you do it? Great. Like, the thing is, there was not one part of this movie that was an actual misdirection. It set you up to think that there was a misdirection. Never was. And that was amazing.
Which is interesting, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. No, he's not who I thought he was, but I was reminded that he played Hitler in Preacher, and that was a whole other thing.
Oh God, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I forgot all about that. So, the premise of this is Ethan Hawke, his character, the agent, He's trying to stop what they're calling the fizzle bomber. Now, one thing I really, really appreciated about this opening sequence was the creativity behind the briefcase and turning that into a bomb diffusal or disposal unit.
Right.
That
Yeah.
I really, 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 really enjoyed.
Very clever.
That.
Yeah.
Yes, but how bad that went. It blew up. It wasn't able to close it. Just disfigured. What we find out.
Successfully contains the bomb, but just barely not closed enough that it completely fucks him up. So,
Well, because the thing is that was the trigger device that was going to set off all the canisters of fuel that was going to make the main bomb. So this was basically just the trigger device that wouldn't have had that big of an explosion anyway. But still, definitely enough to do some damage, which it does. So we see our main character completely covered in scars, or not scars, but blood, burns, skin, is like all the grafts and everything like that. And we cut to the agent in the medical facility getting, what did they call it, the Blackthorn cross, I believe, like the noir.
oh yeah, I don't remember what it was called either, but yeah, it was the something black cross of some kind, but it was a really
second one that they got basically seemed like a mega purple heart.
right, yeah, super high level honor.
Yeah, and when I'm not going to be able to talk about this without the spoilers, like you said. Mega spoilers. This agent is one of our main obviously our main character is one of our main characters, but 5 out of the 6 main characters in the story are all the same person.
Yeah.
And that is something that I really, really enjoyed. Now, when the agent like takes the bandages off and sees himself for the first time, he's like,
his new face, because they had to reconstruct him from that explosion. Yeah.
Yes, and he goes, I look so different. Missed opportunity. Huge missed opportunity.
How do you mean?
Why would he not look at that and go, I remember this face, or there's a familiar sight? Any one of those things based off of how he got recruited.
I took it in the aftermath, and maybe this is just me doing my own kind of personal retconning here, but I took it as he knew what face he was going to get. He knew the story. He knew he was going to get the face that he'd seen before, but when he takes the bandages off, it's still kind of disfigured. He's still got the scars. He's still a little burned. He has no hair. He has no mustache.
Oh, because he hasn't healed up yet. Okay.
Right. So it's, even though he knows what the new face is going to be because he's seen it before, it's when he first sees it in the mirror the first time, it's not what he expected. It's still different from what he was expecting to see.
I'll remove that sin. I will remove that then. Nitpicking? Nope. But I got one later.
Okay.
Dr. Fujimoto removes the agent's bandages, and you see on the paperwork psychosis, depression, all the groundwork for what is going to come in the future.
Right.
I'm so glad I watched this movie twice. When he's looking into the mirror and all this, and he goes, yes, I look so different. Then he also goes, I bet my own mother wouldn't recognize me. And then he chuckles because he is his own mom. Like,
right.
What? Like, I missed the chuckle. The chuckle on the first time, I thought it was just kind of, oh, I'm sad. I'm just going to laugh it off.
Right.
No.
Which is a very clever, like, was that the director that did that? Was that Hawke that made that decision? Whoever made the decision to add that in there, genius work.
Very good. Very good. The departure for the final mission and just recording that and just reminding himself in the recording / herself, themselves, they were
This was the first
this.
misdirect, by the way. For me, anyway.
How so?
So, before, when he's still in the bandages, they're basically telling him, you know, you've done your job. You're decommissioned now. Mm-hmm. And then he starts, recording a note, saying it's going to be 7 years, till you hear this or whatever. And you see him like prepping. He's now like healed up. He's got the mustache has grown back. His hair has grown back. He's got his clothes on. He's getting ready for He's got the fur lined '70s coat, getting ready to go for the mission we see him on.
Mm-hmm.
So this effectively is what's happened to him after he got burned. I thought he was actually talking to his past self before he got burned, and we were about to see what leads up to it.
Nice. I didn't see that. That is nice though.
Mm-hmm.
If that was meant to be caught, then I missed that.
Basically we already knew that they burned him on the ground, and the him that shows up later to push the case to him so he can make his escape. It's pretty obvious ahead of time. We're like, it's the same guy. It's a time loop. That's him that brought him the case. Okay.
Here's the thing. I thought it was the Fizzle Bomber doing, and it was.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole thing.
Right.
I thought it was the Fizzle Bomber actually being the Fizzle Bomber and setting that person up because something actually had to happen.
Okay.
I
could see it from that direction too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But my assumption looking at it was that the burned up guy on the ground was future dude, or no, it was future dude, and the guy that brought him the case and handed it to him so he could escape was past dude, and it was actually the other way around. We come to find out, and that's where they got me. I don't know if that was intentional or if I was just. It was one of those things where it was like I was trying to look for the angle and found the wrong one, either intentionally or by accident on the filmmaker's parts.
Then we get the intro into the unmarried mother. So when she comes into the bar, or he comes into the bar, and we see the introduction and that our two characters, our one character, meet.
Right.
And beautifully done. Like, you're playing yourself and doing all this, and this happened twice in the movie. This character encouraged themselves from a secondary perspective, which I thought was very, very beautiful. Just being able to look at yourself when you needed it the most, knowing that because this is you in the future, and you know that was when you needed it the most, and you put yourself in the position to tell yourself what you needed the most. Powerful as hell. And I thought that was very, very beautiful.
I've seen that people have been talking about that on in the therapy side of TikTok and stuff like that. People have brought up how people who went through a rough childhood of some form or another, they say you grow up to be one of two things. You either grow up to be the villain of someone else's story, or you grow up to be the hero that you wish had been there for you.
I see that.
Yep.
I see that. I'm gonna get this is gonna be a little hot buttony, and I'm just gonna have to go for it because fuck it, I want to. When you have this character, now this is a trans character, went through something, everything like that. I get that. Being super standoffish, definitely a dick.
Confrontational from the get-go.
Not even a little bit either. Like, the guy's like, man, how you doing, or like that. Like, what are you, a faggot? It's like, Jesus Christ, dude, this guy just asked how you doing. He didn't crack on you. He didn't say anything. He asked how you doing, and you just called him a faggot. And you walk around playing like you're the victim? That's something that I really struggle with. I don't struggle with it as a character aspect. I struggle with it because it's such a real thing.
Right. Yeah. We've all seen that person. Yeah.
We've all seen that. Been there, try to open a door for somebody because that's literally how you were taught to be from the moment you were born, and then that person just comes through and treats you like you're basically like you just spit in their face. And it's like, has anybody ever actually been rude to you before? Like, do you actually know what being treated poorly feels like? Because this ain't that. Like, you just took somebody who was having a good day and just decided to do something nice for you, and you just decided to make them feel like shit
What
Why?
and it yeah and well and it's a again it's a common thing and it's a very believable thing. You know,
It's a
folks
very real thing. Like,
who
no,
have
I'm
been
not. I'm
shit
not
on. Yeah,
complaining about the movie. I'm
they base
complaining
yeah.
about those motherfuckers in real life that
And
just are pieces like
it's
assholes.
tough to deal with because it's like it's like you try to go like all right, you know, this isn't about me. They're in the mood to fight somebody because they can't fight the person who actually hurt them,
Mm-hmm.
so they're just come all takers. I'll take anybody out, you know, and which is expressed because he even says a couple of times sometimes I wish I could just wipe out everyone in the city,
Yeah,
like
very much. Like
yeah.
very much. You see the beginnings of the Fizzle Bomber right there, right on that bar stool. You
Yep.
see it, and like that's the thing that I get. I just it's not that I don't want to use the word triggering, but it is a little bit triggering because like you see that character and everything like that, and then you have people like that that will spend hours, days, weeks. If you work with a person like that, you might spend months with a person like that, treating you horribly every single day, every opportunity you have, and then you open your mouth one time, and that person is the biggest victim that the planet has ever seen.
Oh sure, of course.
Like that is how this character felt to me.
It's
Like that's
standard
why I say it's
operating
triggering
procedure.
because
Yeah.
like, and it made me hate the character immediately.
Yep.
Like, because I
Which I
don't
think.
like people who dish it but don't take. It does not
Yep.
matter what your situation is. If you treat people a certain way, get ready.
And I think that might have been kind of like the goal there. It was an interesting like turnaround where they introduced this character right off the bat, make him totally unlikable. We are ready to hate. Like as soon as this person, like, as soon as he walks in and says that, like as an audience member, your first thought is, oh, I hope this is
The Fizzle Bomber. Yeah.
the fizzle bomber so that we can see this motherfucker go down. Like I'm looking
Yep.
forward to it now immediately. And then weirdly through the span of him telling his story, now all of a sudden you're weirdly getting kind of on his side, which is
I never
again
was.
it is again one of those weird like kind of realistic things like that will happen.
Mm.
Like I have had those moments in my life where I have had like my actual school bully who I was, you know, if I were just a little bit more nuts would have set fire to, and then I find out, oh, his own dad regularly beats the shit out of him. Suddenly now I'm not so mad anymore, you know.
Well, here's the deal. Here's the deal on that. I've had my former bullies and stuff like that. They've reached out to me. They've apologized and all this stuff. Forgiveness is there. We're friends now as adults. That
Mm,
is not a like that. Yeah, you can do that if you see past your own crap and you reach out to the people that you treated like crap. You never know what's on the other side of that. It could
sure, yeah.
be a good friendship. It could be a rekindled relationship. You never know. But that is an important thing that I think that people should do. Now, when it does not matter to me. If you treat people like crap, I was treated like crap, so I'm gonna treat you like crap. Nope. You get the hell out of my life. You get
Sure,
on
yeah.
the other side of that door. If you were treated poorly, then the one thing that you are guaranteed to know is what that feels like.
Hmm.
So I have no sympathy for people who are like, I
Which is
treat
like,
people bad
yeah,
because I was bad. It's like, then you should know.
yeah.
Then
And
that
that is
makes you
and
literally worse than the person who just does that for fun
yeah.
because that
And
person doesn't know.
that is a constant struggle throughout the world. We're all, yeah. I
And
mean,
we
I
all
think
got our yeah.
you're right. You know, seeing it so shamelessly portrayed in a
Hmm.
movie can, yeah, like you said, can be triggering because we've
Yeah,
all
like that.
dealt
Like,
with. Can we all dealt with that person?
oh, yeah, you have to imagine everybody has.
Hmm.
I mean, it's like because that's not a story I have one of. That's a story I have like a dozen of.
Hmm.
And that's not just Portland. That's not even just the West Coast. That's back in the Midwest as well. That's down in the South. Like that is not a uniquely liberal, conservative. That is not that is a
Hmm.
human nature thing.
Yeah.
Some people just suck. That's how that goes. Man, I got stuck onto that one for a while. The baby left on the doorstep. telling that story, having the story start there, having that perspective, I was waiting for the end of the, like, once I was watched it the first time, I was really excited for the second time. Um, yeah, that whole aspect of the story where she never got sick, she never went to the hospital, there was never anything like that. That was a slightly enjoyable aspect because it made it a little bit more believable that they never would have caught that.
Hmm.
However, I don't know about this, and you are also too young to know this. Didn't they get like annual checkups even then?
I don't know,
I don't
but
know because that whole thing took place in the 50s.
yeah. Well, no, it was the 40s. That
Well,
that
she
part
was
was
born
even
in the 40s, but like her
right.
childhood took place in the
Right.
50s.
I mean, and there's a lot of things. She was in an orphanage,
Right?
famously underfunded. Um,
Right.
and
Which
yeah,
also, when she goes through later and discusses about how her child went missing, and
mhm.
she checked all the orphanages, all this stuff, everything like that. Well, your baby was not in your timeline,
Mm.
so I thought that was done quite well. That ginormous spider that she saw on the fence,
I know, right? Where did they find a child willing to run up and touch that thing?
Australia.
That's
It's
right.
where the damn thing was filmed, man. They
That's
don't give a
right.
damn about spiders over there.
Right. Yeah.
No, this cute little girl goes up. Ah, look at a spider as big as my torso. Poke.
That's
No,
true. That's a very Australia thing.
yeah,
That's a good point.
and then the spider goes through the fence. Now, if this was a CG spider, I can understand everything and all that, sure. But if that was a real spider that they had like released and had go up the wall or whatever, and they did
Hmm.
that, and it went through the fence, and then this little girl just stuck her face right up. No, 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 no.
Pulls the fence apart.
That was the
Roar!
scariest part of the movie for me. Was when that little girl put her face right next to that big ass spider, and the spider just wasn't there. And I'm like, oh, no, don't do it, don't, no, 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 no.
The story was about to take a turn.
I thought that we were gonna like get introduced to like a young superhero or something like that because as she's going across the street and the car almost hits her, and then she just
Oh yeah, yeah,
bam, and then she punches the freaking headlamp out of the car, and I'm like,
yeah.
that's not easy.
No.
So I thought the movie was gonna be something different, which good misdirect, but also why? Like that can't
Well,
actually be a possible thing for a little child to do.
I don't know. I
It's a
mean,
con. It's a convex lens. That's like the strongest thing.
but it was also made of real, actual glass back then. That was before plastics, before safety glass. I mean, at the very least, her hand should have been bleeding afterwards, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's not technically impossible. Plus, I think they were trying to establish too
She was
the
like
fact that
testosterone and all
she
that.
was yeah she was testosterone. She was exceptional. Like there was a reason why she was like basically
But
later became this
here's
essential super
my
soldier was because she was
kind of
superior in every way, mentally
here's my
and
kind of issue
physically.
with that. Your testosterone doesn't kick in at that age.
No.
So
Okay, so that we'll get into this later, but this was like I said, you mentioned this was based on a short story by Robert Heinlein.
yeah,
Robert Heinlein is controversial to say the least.
I didn't look into
So
him at all.
he is actually I've known Robert Heinlein for quite some time because he was
Oh,
both my mother's and my ex-wife's favorite sci-fi author. So
holy
I'm
shit. So you
somewhat familiar
knew
with
this
him.
guy. Okay.
Oh, oh yeah. That's the thing. Is like I didn't know it before going in, but once the movie was over and I saw the little credit come up said based on a short story by Heinlein, I went like, oh, that fucking explains a lot.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
The aspect of feeling different and not looking into the mirror and like knowing that she was different. I'm glad that they set that up because
Mm,
that set up why she doesn't recognize herself in the future.
mm,
And that was very, very key for me. That was a big problem that I was ready to have. And then they took the rug out from under me, and I was very happy that they did it. The the fight, this is the missed opportunity, and you will agree with me.
Mm.
You got this big, like, little, like, butch, like, teenage girl just beating up Jane, or trying to beat up Jane, but
Right.
it don't happen. They call her something and she just gets mad. They should have called her a name, and she should have responded like, "My name is Jane."
What did they
Because
call her again? I can't remember.
like a little pink, like, hootie tootie, like, it didn't matter.
Oh, okay.
It literally didn't matter. They just called her like, "You're a little stupid dumb head." Like,
Right.
it
Okay. Yeah.
literally didn't matter. But if they would have called her something and she would have latched on and taken some pride in her name, then I'll get there.
Okay.
But I feel like you already know where I'm going.
Possibly. Yes.
Okay. Meeting Dr. Robertson at Space Corps, and the interview where, like, they start the interview off and the man is all joking, and then she cracks a joke back, and then he changes tone like, "Do you think this is a joke?" It's like, man, fuck you. You literally started this off with laughs and jokes and stuff like that. She matched your energy and you're punishing her. Kiss my ass, you fucking piece of shit.
But you know, honestly, I mean, especially if part of the test is how do you respond to stress, that was
That does make
intentional.
sense. I did not think
that
about that. I just
yeah,
thought 60s sexism. That's all I thought.
right. And there probably was some of that there, but yeah, it's very yeah. I saw it very much as a like they're seeing what her stress response is, especially after they just complained about like like they even like preceded like who would sit there and complain about the last applicant right in front of the one in front of you unless you wanted to make them more nervous, like, and
That's a good
that's
point.
you know,
That's a
and so
good
that was
point.
the point of this, and like I imagine that was definitely like yeah. So yeah, there probably was a little bit of that 60s sexism kind of thing in there, but it was very much also like this isn't just an interview, this is a test to see how you react.
Which, speaking of the test, the VR headsets through the training at Space Corps, out of balance in someone else's body. Second time we have a reference of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I also put this note here. Why does John eventually trust Robertson? Like, we see all the never mind. I know the answer to that, and I'm actually gonna talk about it.
Okay.
So Jane leaves the program and becomes a maid, and then goes back to school because she got into a fight. And during the fight, the people in oh damn it, I really should have looked up whether this term is politically correct or not.
They called her a
Is
name.
no, not that. But what she finds out is hermaphroditic, like, because that is just a science
Oh,
term.
right.
Because
And I'm
she actually had both of those organs. She did not
right.
go through a full transition to gain them, but she did transition from female to male.
I'm not sure if that's a politically correct term or not. I
To
do
call
know
somebody a
from
hermaphrodite is
right,
not, but like to be
right.
hermaphroditic.
To my knowledge, at least in today's parlance, it's intersex is what basically we're you know what we're going with now because
What I've been dying to tell you, since from the person who recommended this,
mm,
he recommended that we do not call this a trans film.
okay. Well, and I honestly kind of would agree. I don't think this was a trans story.
So let me ask you this:
Hmm.
you go into, like, any movie that is starring a black actor that has that is a black story. Every
Okay.
single one. Every single
Yeah.
one. This movie completely revolves around a trans character. Why would
Sure.
it not then be a trans story based off literally the same principles?
And now this goes into what I know of Heinlein. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I could be wrong, mind you, because it could very well be that because I can tell you for sure Heinlein did have a thing to do with the making of the movie because he died in the 80s.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah. So this was based off of a short story that he wrote, and that's
Mm-hmm.
it. But Heinlein he's one of those interesting characters who, in some ways, was profoundly progressive for his time, but by today's measure was offensively old-fashioned. And I get that that's basically, like I said, he was my mother's favorite sci-fi author. This is from her mouth that she is basically explained this to me. She loved his work when she first read it back in the 60s and 70s because it was so progressive. Now, older with today's eyes, she will go back and read it again because he's still her favorite author. And now she's reading it and thinking, God, what a dick. So what we have here is and they even reference it in the movie. They even mention on two different occasions. They mention the Swiss, surgeon who basically transitioned themselves. Yeah. And this was probably the inspiration for Heinlein to pose this philosophical, sort of sci-fi philosophy question: could a single person be both father and mother to a child?
Well, basically, so and this movie did not clear, and it did not answer jack shit about anything other than quite literally the trans character. That's what kind of concretes it as a trans story, because it is a trans character that the story happened because of time travel, but the entire story is literally how this trans character gave birth to themselves.
Yes.
That is the entire story.
Weird and convoluted.
When he said, he's like, check out the marketing material, read the synopsis, all of that. It's like there nowhere does it say anything about trans. It's like, because it's the twist.
Yeah, why would you
market the twist?
Fair point, but also at the same time, and again, speaking as someone who has no idea about that experience, never been through it myself.
Well, yeah, right.
That's what I feel like was lost. This was not a story about someone who felt out of place in her gender and then once transitioned, then found acceptance in herself, or himself in this case, and then had to kind of deal with the new life, and that this was in fact the opposite. This was about someone who, even though she felt out of place and weird, she still identified as a woman and was forced against her will to become a man.
Okay.
This is like almost the exact opposite of it.
No, it's not. See, that's the thing that actually, and there's where he had a very similar standpoint, which I'm gonna just say I cannot even begin to rationalize how this makes sense. He says that it is not a trans story because the character did not choose, the character is not trans because the character did not choose to transition, which that is essentially like saying that character is still a virgin even though they were raped because they didn't want it, which is not how that works. This character transitioned, and the transition is a tragedy for this character until you find out that the transition is what made this character. But also at the same time, this character's entire motivation, even the trans identity, comes from the fact that genetically, biologically, they are both sexes and could have at any time chosen to be one or the other and never felt like either. No, she was forced to have a hysterectomy after the cesarean section, C-section from the birth, and then they dropped her urethra without her consent.
Right.
So this is that's kind of the thing. It does not make any sense because the character was forced to go through a transition that they did not want. However, they did transition.
Right. But that's kind of the thing. And again, this comes to where Heinlein is kind of backward in his thinking, is that his justification for how this person is able to be both male and female and be kind of generally comfortable in both lives comes from the physical.
Where are you getting the comfort? Because her entire
discomfort
was okay.
Basically the same either way. She was equally discomfortable as he was. They were both miserable.
Yes.
Um, but
Until
it
he
basically
found
came
himself or he found herself.
right, which I mean that's a little weird. I don't know if I saw a female version of me, would I instantly fall in love with her? I don't think I would. Maybe that's just me. Um,
No, I
but
wouldn't.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, he basically puts it down to genetics again. It's again the physicality of the fact that she had already prepared and practically packaged, ready to go. To not even just like packaged and ready to go, but like to the degree where once he had his transition surgery, he was able to father children. Like that was like that's how
Eventually.
prepackaged this was.
Eventually.
But
The day
that's kind of
the
where
story
his
started, that was welcome to the tribe. The
right.
day that this story started, when she walks into the bar that morning, she found out she was able to father children, which
Right.
is why the story begins that day, because he has
That
to
was
go back and meet herself.
right. And that and yeah, and I guess it would like we're sitting here honestly grasping at straws. We really should just dial in a trans person and let them,
Well,
tell us
see,
what.
here's kind of the thing. I read a lot of stuff after the fact of people
Mhm.
who talked about it, and this is a movie that is lauded by the trans community.
Okay.
So
Well
if
then.
they're saying it's a trans movie, I'm okay saying it. And I
Okay.
don't understand how I'm gonna go call this the straight white dude is like pushing me like, no, 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 you don't know about trans. It's like, okay, well, can I listen to them or should
And
I
that's
listen to
fair.
you?
You,
Like,
you you got me there. I will bow to that. If the trans community is accepting this as a trans film, then I'll then yeah.
because
And
my
maybe
very next note is even specifically about it. The missed opportunity when she's practicing becoming a man and the voice and all of this, and she trying to emulate a man's voice, introduces herself and says, "My name is Jane."
right.
That is the pay. That is the
Ah,
missed payoff to the missed opportunity that
to
should have
her
been there
ever
in the fight.
declaring it when she was a kid. You're right. Okay.
Yes, it
I
was
see
an
what you're saying.
emotional
Yeah.
moment, but
That would have hit
if
harder if it had meant
yes,
something
it
to
would
the
have hit
audience.
way harder. Like I probably would have been busting tears. Like it made me sad. But
Yeah.
if that scene would have existed when she was a kid and she was latched onto her name, no parents, no family, no nothing. Only thing she has to own, her name.
Yep.
That
Okay. No, yeah,
should
you're a good
have
point.
been
That
a
that was a
much
missed
bigger
opportunity
deal.
right there. I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
this isn't a trans movie. This is a movie that happens to have trans people in it that is part of the story kind of thing. And so probably and that would probably explain why, it would be, even if, we can disagree as to whether or not it is a trans movie, trans community would accept it because it's not, it doesn't it's not a
But again,
gimmick. It's
that
not a but it's not the butt of a joke or whatever.
that double standard across the board, it doesn't make any sense. It like if you go and every movie that is starring a black actor is a black story, then you go and you have an entire movie where 5 of the 6 main characters are all trans. And that's not a trans story? That doesn't make any sense to me. This
Well, I
is a
mean,
time
they're five of
traveling
five.
movie.
They're all one character, so
Well, yeah, but it doesn't matter. They're played off as 5 different characters.
okay, fair enough.
Like Noah Taylor is the only character in this movie that is not playing John or Jane.
No, that's true. Oh, at least as we know. No, we're pretty sure on that one. Yeah, actually, no. We
I'm
could
pretty
be.
because like
Yeah, no, we could be pretty.
this was my
We could
theory
be.
on it. I thought they were what like held, I don't know, the timeline together or something like that. Like because they basically they used the grandfather paradox, but they
Yeah,
actually used it. They didn't
right. It
use it
was
as a device to break the story or to prevent something from
well,
happening.
and
They
I think
used
this
it.
was interesting. Like his character comes in to kind of explain why this agency is not doing anything to break this obvious grandfather paradox. They're basically taking ownership of it almost.
But see, here's something that I do kind of want. I'm gonna go ahead and jump right to the end because I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
This is a trans story, and it's weirdly homophobic. The only time the main character was not attracted to themselves and everything like that, could not look past and love themselves, was when they were the same sex.
Oh, yeah. No, and that was an interesting thing too. Yeah.
So
Like
when
like
you
like
were
when
talking
like when
about Heinlein and everything like that, that was where I felt like that. Like that's
because
where I
yeah,
felt
like
that.
when he like when she transitions into he, like the thought the thought of getting with guys and being a gay guy from there never even enters into the conversation. She immediately is like, well, I guess I better go start picking up some chicks or something like that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Which yeah,
it's like that's what I say. Like it's a time travel. It's a paradoxical story. Actually, it's not paradoxical at all. It actually uses the paradox and tells a complete story that makes every bit of sense.
which only raises the question of how the hell did it even start? Like, how do you like that? I've been that's what I've been twisted in my mind is if you wanted to create this exact situation intentionally, how would you even start?
Alternate universe. You'd have to. That's the only way it would work. You'd have to enter into something that was already existing and introduce and create something.
Probably, yeah.
That is like because I had the same thought because I'm like, okay, so how did this start? Like, how did they start time travel? Because time travel didn't even get invented until after every single point in this story.
Right.
It said it was invented in 1991, correct? I should have
I
written.
believe,
I
yeah,
should
I
I
think
should
that's
have
what's it.
written
Yeah,
that down.
91, and then the farthest in the future they travel is 85. So yeah, it all takes place before the invention. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because he said he couldn't go more than 53 years in either direction of the invention of time travel,
Yep.
which I thought would be a great setup for a follow-up story from somebody from like 2183 or something like that, travels to that time on accident and is like, shit, I can't get back to my time travel. I can only get 53 years closer to it.
Mm.
Like, I thought that was a good setup for a lot more stories,
Yeah,
but
and it's
10
interesting.
years old and this movie never got a sequel.
Well, there was no Heinlein never wrote a sequel to the short story, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of figured Spierig would kick it on, which also, this was written and directed by the Spierig brothers, which this is a time traveling sci-fi trans
Mhm.
story. All this. Now I'm wondering if in a few years they're going to become the Spierig sisters. I'm just wondering how closely they're going to follow the Wachowskis.
Who knows? Who knows? So what was the and I mean, say the only other thing I was thinking was how like when I looked them up, I saw it was these same two brothers and Hawke again
Mm-hmm.
responsible for Daybreakers,
Daybreakers, yes,
which is also great.
yes. Uh, Jane's or John's realization because Ethan Hawke takes him back and like if I like the man that you fell in love with, I'm starting to suspect that he's the fizzle bomber and all
Mm.
this. So kill him. And the realization over John's face when he realizes that he's the one that she falls in love with,
Yeah.
I liked. I also liked the scene where they were challenging each other back and forth, and that she rose to the occasion instead of being heavily insulted because he backed off, very well mannered, very good boundaries, everything like that. Like I really enjoyed watching John fall in love with himself and watching Jane
Mm.
fall in love with herself. I that played better than I was ever expecting it to. Um,
For as weird as it was, but yeah, it weirdly worked.
Now it's time for my nitpicky shit.
Okay.
I got this. So Jane says when she's telling the
Might
story
not be
that
as bad as
John.
my nitpicky shit on this one, but go ahead.
Ooh, okay. So when Jane says that she watched John walk away and she never saw him again during the fight, or not fight, but the whatever moment between Ethan
The
Hawke
reveal, yeah.
and yeah, she's continuously looking back and seeing John talking to Ethan Hawke. She doesn't see Ethan Hawke, but she sees John. That
Right.
was the last time that she saw him. So that's my little nitpicky thing. Set aside from them missing I don't even know how they missed such a big opportunity to pay off the thing about her name.
Right.
Like I don't know how the hell they did that. That seems so obvious. It like yeah.
See, my one nitpicky thing
What'd you
is
have?
that in the scene where they meet, where he's sitting there waiting, like he thinks he's there to kill the guy, and then Jane bumps into him, and that's when he has that turnaround, that realization, that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
In that scene alone, John is taller than Jane.
Oh, okay. No, okay. If you're going to go there, then I have also had a pretty major problem. They should have Gandalf and Frodo'd, Ethan Hawke and Sarah Snook.
Yeah.
So,
That's right, because Ethan Hawke is way taller, too, the whole
not
time.
just
That's
that,
right.
his head is like this much bigger than hers. Just because you have a sex change doesn't mean you get a new skull.
No, yeah, that's true.
Like, that was a very big oversight.
I guess it didn't hit me until that moment. Yeah.
No, like that was something that I felt earlier in the movie. But when you're hiring two different actors, I gotta say, at least they chose Ethan Hawke, who is a very skinny dude.
Mm-hmm.
That you could hire a traditional actor and all that, and have them like be fight scenes and all this, because you can't have Bradley Cooper doing that unless you get a buff woman in there doing the same thing.
Right.
The fact that they did it like this, I think they chose their actors very, very well. And I know you're not big on the eyes, so I'm curious. I caught on to they were the same person about midway through the bar. When did you figure it out?
Right, the first time he says, that way you know who I am. Like, I knew that there was some hinky stuff going on. I had already figured out that,
So after John like leaves Jane.
After John leaves Jane, and he comes up, and it was already pretty obvious, like, okay,
the way
John and Jane are the same.
Line.
Yeah, John and Jane are the same person, and okay, we've already figured out that the baby, and all that sort of stuff. That whole loop has already been established, in that we've already figured out that this somehow leads to the Fizzle Bomber, the reveal that Ethan Hawke's character is also all of these people at the same time, who has not only, who has orchestrated the entire paradoxes, created all of them. That's not obviously revealed until later, but the first hint is when he says to John, now you know who you are, and now you got a pretty good idea who I am. That was the first time I went like, shit.
My favorite line of the film, and it's not because it was such a beautifully written line or anything like that. It's because of how Ethan Hawke delivered it. And it's Jane, and John goes, "I love her," and then Ethan's like, "I know that." Like no condescension. So much heart, so much was felt in there, so much actual understanding was in that voice and in that line.
Right, yeah.
Just delivering that line I'm pretty sure that was my favorite part of the entire movie.
It was pretty good, yeah.
Like the ability to send that much emotion in 2 words. That is why Ethan Hawke,
That is why Ethan Hawke.
The love between John and Jane leading to that pregnancy, and all of that. The story of the pregnancy, that was oof. That was beautiful. However, I know you laughed at this. It's not something to laugh at, but I know you laughed at it just like I did. When the doctor was getting ready to explain it to Jane what happened, and he had to stop and light a cigarette because he was so uncomfortable.
The good old days.
Yeah, sitting in the hospital next to a woman who literally just had a child, sparking up a cigarette because you don't because you okay.
You have to expect him to even go look, this is gonna be rough. You want a drink? Can I pour you something?
Literally. So I'm glad that they put that moment in there. That was super funny for me.
That was good.
Also really devastating for the character, which I really enjoyed. The kidnap baby. I mean, man, when they hit this character, when Jane went through it, Jane really went through it. And I forgot to write down her name, but I'm going to look this up real quick because they're the one who played the nurse in this movie.
Right.
You remember who I'm talking about?
Which nurse? The natal nurse?
The neonatal nurse.
No, I don't remember.
Okay. She This was her very first appearance, but I have a feeling. Like, I have a feeling about her. So I want to throw her name on here just so I can throw back to it in the future. Where are you? I mean, it was a low, like a small roll. There it is. Wait, no, that's not it. Yes, it is. Eliza Matengu.
Okay.
This was her.
We've seen her in other things since then.
Well, we're going to see her again in Marvel. She plays Axel's mother, Heimdall's wife.
Oh, interesting.
So she's already secured in the MCU, and she's going to make some appearances there. This was her first project that she showed up in, and I think that I think something's going to happen there. Like I said, I'm one more time just to put her name in here, Eliza Matengu. I don't know why. Every time she was on screen, I remember every single second that she was there. She had a presence, yeah. She has screen presence. She does, and I'm just curious. I'm putting this out there. I'm just curious if I'm going to be right in the future. Oh, dude, the line that John says about like, what did the guy look like? It was just a man with a face like yours or mine. Fucking dude. Oh, what a beautiful, beautiful line to play in. More operations, which is the moment for that payoff line where she's sitting there practicing how to say, and she's like, "Hi, my name is John," or "Hi, my name is Jane." Hi, my name is Jane. Like, she's really like trying all this stuff. If she would have said, "My name is Jane," don't call me that. My name is Jane at the beginning of the movie. That I would have been literally destroyed right at that moment. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. That would have been huge. The attempt. Oh, right. Welcome to being a man, or welcome to the tribe.
Right.
Ethan Hawke saying that to Sarah Snook. However, that is John saying it to John.
Yep.
That is reaffirmation. That is telling yourself. That is something that Ethan Hawke once, like in the future, 7 years down the road, he understands what he needed to hear.
Yep.
Beautiful. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, like when he tried to go back and join SpaceX, and then the doctor like just examining him out of curiosity and all this shit. Right. You have to imagine that that's something that trans people actually do experience.
Probably, yeah. You're probably right there.
So again, you want to hit me that this is not a trans movie? I gotta disagree, because that is something that I don't know about. You don't know about. Trans people know about.
That's fair. I think where I get hung up is whether or not I believe this was intended to be a trans story.
I don't think when Heinlein wrote it, I don't think it was.
Definitely not. But that doesn't mean the filmmakers didn't mean it, because
film might, like, look at the time they made it.
That's a very good point.
Like, that is a very good point. Decades after it was written, and they decide to write it like at the height of RuPaul's Drag Race.
That is a fair point. I'm coming around on that now. Yeah.
But like I said, I'm sticking to this because I read like 10 different articles about, or from trans writers and trans authors about this being a trans story. So I'm quoting them, but I'm quoting them because it reaffirms what I'm saying. So it's very.
But that is compelling evidence. Yeah.
So. I loved this line so much. When the agent comes back, and then John sees the agent and then calls him a son of a bitch. That was so fucking cheeky. Yeah. That was such a good inclusion on a line. That was great.
Yes. Well, I was holding on to this till we got there, and we skipped over by accident. But when you're talking about the the kidnapping of the baby.
Yeah.
When he goes back to kidnap the baby, and that was when um, Noah's character comes back, and that's where we get that sort of like clue in where the boss man is basically saying like at this point it's all become very clear to everyone that they are, even though their main enemy here is the Fizzle Bomber, they are aware that they are also creating the Fizzle Bomber.
I
Like
think the
in
Fizzle
there,
Bomber created time travel.
you think so?
I think the explosion, the final explosion, is the thing that actually sets off like the events into motion to create time travel. And I'm going to get to this, but the Bureau forced the Fizzle Bomber to happen.
Yeah, I mean that's the
He
thing. Is like
tried to decommission his violin case at the end of it, and it didn't. It didn't decommission. I think
right.
the Bureau straight up forced that to happen.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because the boss even says there, he goes like, we don't need to condone him, we don't need to admire him, but we do
Yeah,
need to
he like
admit that
gives
we
him a
are.
little bit of peace.
Yeah, he's like, we
about
we
being there.
are as efficient of an agency as we are because of him, because everything that we have become was to try and beat him, and he is nearly unbeatable. And yeah, and meanwhile at the same time, literally like we're watching the chain of events that he was even created with take place right here, and they know it, and they like, and even if to a certain degree John is maybe even kind of in some level of denial up to that point,
You have to imagine
the
that he
boss
definitely
knows, the
is.
boss absolutely knows.
You know he's in denial, but no, he's not. He says at the beginning of the movie, or at the beginning. Sorry, this is two movies, by the way.
Okay.
The death of the unmarried mother.
Right.
That's the end of the first movie, and then the second movie begins as soon as that like halfway through that conversation, and you go down the stairs, and the entire movie becomes an entirely different movie.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I really enjoyed that aspect. I love, me, especially with what you and I are working on. I love two stories in one.
Yep.
When the agent delivers the baby, I enjoyed the fact because I was ready for it. I was ready to call a problem out, and then he changed his jacket, and I was like, hey, son of a bitch. And then John leaves Jane. Yeah, I wrote problem, but there was no problem because that actually did work out. So the agent finishes recruiting John, and Robertson encourages him to become the Fizzle Bomber. Exactly what we were just discussing. It's like,
right.
we can't admonish him. We can't, because we don't understand him, and who's to say that he's not necessary and all of these things. He is laying the seeds for when John is thinking about this later on. I think that John is going to figure out that the Bureau actually wants him to do that, which does also create a little bit of a problem, because why didn't the older version of John tell him that? Point that out to him, because there's no way he didn't realize that. This time travel, like mega powerful Bureau that has the ability to do all these things, they didn't just send another agent to come pick up something that's not decommissioned. Like, nothing makes sense except the fact that the Bureau wanted this to happen.
Right. And I think to a certain degree, I think, and they even ask him, like, when he's on his, he's on his last mission, what do you, are you sure that you want to go, have basically your retirement be at where we know the bomb is going to go off.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because he's just been decommissioned. He's been told, you're done here. You just got blown up. Your psyche valve's looking bad. You just got your second highest award. We're going to take it from here. You're retired now. We're going to move. We're going to, assign this to another agent. He's doing what any good agent would do. He's not giving up. He wants, the reason why he's asking to be sent back to when the bomb goes off is because in his mind, he's going to have one last ditch effort to try to stop him, even if it means even if it's a one-way ticket. And that's why he does that.
So when you say any good agent, what do you think a good agent would do? Because I would say a good agent would walk away when it's the right time. When you're done with something, when you don't give up on something, that's when your mental health starts playing into a factor. That's when
And
you become obsessed. That's when all of these things happen. That's why when a lot of detectives, when a lot of people are working on cases for too long, they get assigned a new case and that case gets handed off to somebody else.
you're right. I'll correct any standard agent character in a movie.
I I thought we were gonna
Yeah,
go deeper into something,
yeah.
but all right, fine. My final note: agent versus the older agent,
Hmm.
but you caught the line right before that happens, right?
Oh,
The very final thing that Ethan Hawke says into the voice recorder that he's recording for Sarah Snook as John is,
right,
"Where did all you zombies come from?"
right.
Which, "All You Zombies" is the
All You
name
Zombies
of
is
the
the
short
title
story.
of the short story. Yep.
Yeah. So I was very happy that they put that in there. I really enjoyed this movie. I'm gonna say that.
This was a really good movie. Yes, very, very
Yes.
compelling.
So I'm
Definitely.
very grateful to the one who recommended it, but I am
Hmm.
very confused as to why he doesn't think it's a trans story. That really confuses me.
And that may just be kind of like, well, here's my question: if he's saying it's not a trans story, what does he think it is a story of?
I just imagine time travel.
Okay, well, that's never true. No time travel movie, no time travel story is actually about time travel.
No, it's time travel is the mechanic to make the story happen.
Right. Um, I could see how one would make an argument about this movie being about fatalism, or even
I can
some
give you
sort
that.
of half-assed argument about
Well, I mean,
like
yeah,
what
I
they were.
mean the name of the movie, Predestination, like it
Right,
literally is.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's also, like, like we were talking about before, about how the boss is like this. The Fizzle Bomber made us what we are. So even though he's technically the villain, we are better for it, and that's why, even though we know you're the Fizzle Bomber, we're still going to bend time and space to make sure you happen, because it's what makes us happen. And
Yeah.
it's some sort of like
At least that's my
it,
theory. At least that's my
right,
theory. I think the Fizzle
like
Bomber is what caused time travel because this paradox happening, like every other time travel story, like if you meet yourself and all this stuff, like
right.
all this stuff happens. So I'm guessing that these guys actually meeting themselves might be the thing that kicked off this temporal anomaly that allowed the thing to happen in the first place.
Possibly, yes. And even the whole, the
But writing
case
that
that was
story would be
supposed to be
tough.
the case that's supposed to be decommissioned but isn't decommissioned is
Mm-hmm.
actually still working, and it's 40 years or so, no, not 40, like yeah, 20 years in the past of when it was supposed to be invented.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's right.
that's a Terminator 2 kind of thing right there. But I mean, yeah, it's and I guess it kind of goes back to, like, do we want to try to surmise what Heinlein's intention was here? Probably not, because whatever his intention was, that doesn't mean that's what the filmmaker's intention was.
Yeah.
Um,
He wasn't even alive to give the interpretation to their actors. I mean, that's not a
right.
like thank you to Heinlein for providing the framework for this, but I'm not giving him credit for the execution.
No, yeah. Um, and it's I mean, you can do that for a lot of things. I, I mean, I've read a couple of his books, and
Are
the
they good?
guys, I mean, they're
They're dated.
interesting. They're dated. They're
Yeah.
his. Well, and that's another thing that kind of, like, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, with
Blazing Saddles.
when John first enters and is combative right away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is very much a Heinlein thing. All of Heinlein's characters are pricks.
Well, then I'm very appreciative of that
Yeah,
because if that's the case, then he didn't write an angry trans character just to be an angry trans character. He like that is how he writes his characters, and I can
right.
give him love for that. Like because if you're gonna try to pass the Bechtel test,
Mm, yeah,
just write a story and assign the gender after.
which has, that worked with Aliens really well.
That's how we got Ripley.
Yeah.
All right, so I gave the final thoughts on Grandma's Boy. Why don't you go ahead for Predestinate? Or
The final thoughts on Predestination. Boy, but that's a tough one because there are so many layers to this. Like, it is, yeah, there, whether you think it's a trans story or not, there is a trans element to it among many other things to discuss.
the main
Like
character literally transitions.
the, and then there's, the title says predestination, fatalism. Uh, you know, there's almost kind of a like, would we have invented, these, how, what techno, how much high-end security technology would we have not invented if 9/11 had never happened, is basically what this movie posits. Is does that, you know and that even to begin to unpack the paradox of how this whole thing started, there is a lot there. And one could almost argue that it is just intentionally confusing and nonsensical. But as you watch it, it is so compelling and so well put together and so well done that you are drawn into it. You are, even if you can predict the twists ahead of time, you're still right there in it with everyone because of how well produced it was and how well performed it was.
Yes, I was going to speak to the performances. Yes.
Yeah, our John Jane. I mean, my God, the fact that she wasn't up for an Oscar for this one is amazing. That's a good one.
Right.
Fun.
Definitely putting Predestination up on the haven't you seen list because this, I'm gonna call it a must see. I mean, because it's too good. It is the best version of the grandfather paradox that I have ever seen translated to television, film, or anything else. Okay, Predestination. Go watch it. And what are we gonna do next week? Oh wait, no, we have next week's already.
We do? I was so ready to assign you something.
You have a speech. You have a speech prepared.
I was ready to have my revenge on you. For Grandma's Boy, I had picked out a movie that I know you're going to hate.
Oh, what the shit. All right, that sucks, but okay. Let's do this.
You ready?
What do you got for me?
Mind you, I had to narrow it down to 2, so just remember for next time, there's another in the chamber if this happens again.
Oh, that's actually fine because this week is not going to be fun for you either. Because this week the audience participation is a horror movie.
Oh, really?
Skeleton Key. Yep. So let's get. But that's John Cusack, I'm pretty sure, and I know you like John Cusack.
I do. Yes. All right. Well, in that case, I'm giving you Willy's Wonderland.
Willy's Wonderland?
Willy's Wonderland. Have you heard of the very famous horror game Five Nights at Freddy's?
Yeah.
So imagine someone
the movie like 2 weeks ago.
So imagine if someone wanted to make a Five Nights at Freddy's movie but didn't want to actually pay for the rights.
Oh, shit. Damn it, Doc.
It gets better. It gets better.
No.
It stars Nick Cage.
Okay, well,
it stars Nick Cage. No. Because you know why?
Hi.
Because it stars Nick Cage in a non-speaking role. When I say, look, now here's the thing.
Okay, I have to ask, Doc. I have to ask before we go any further. Do you like this movie? Or why are you pushing this on me then?
Because it has to be seen to be believed. And here, two things. Here's the thing.
Okay.
Now you've been there for a large portion of my own filmmaking career.
Mm-hmm.
You know that I know better than anyone how sometimes when you have an idea, things happen, they don't turn out great, or even if it turns out exactly as you wanted it to, once you get it on film, it's not how you intended it to. Yep. I have a very sympathetic ear and eye when it comes to things that just didn't turn out right, bad movies that had the best of intentions behind them. I do not believe this movie was made in good faith.
You think it was a tax cut?
Not just a tax cut. I think this was a movie made by people who genuinely hate people who watch movies. I think this movie was made as an attempt to as a deliberate attempt to destroy Nicolas Cage's career. If you told me that this movie was grown in a lab in Wuhan, China, I would believe you. That is how purely evil this movie is in how horrible it is.
It's going to be a fun week.
You're going to make me watch Skeleton Key. Okay.
I'm not making you. That's the audience. I don't have to take any heat for that one. You get to take all the heat for all the misery I'm going to face this week from like tearing this movie apart and going into it and researching it. You just have to deal with a couple of jump scares.
Oh, you know what's really funny?
What's up?
Guess who the production company is for Willy's Wonderland? Can you guess?
Hitachi?
Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Nah. When was this made?
I want to say like 3-4 years ago. It came out right before Pig did, like right on the heels of it. Like
okay. All right. All right. I don't have great gusto for this one. Let's just go ahead and put it out there. But I was wrong. Skeleton Key is not the one with our man.
Well, Cusack's not in it. Who is there? Are there any names I would recognize in there?
I'm gonna say yes. Kate Hudson, Peter Sarsgaard, Joy Bryant, Gina Rowlands. Let's make our way down here and see if there's any. No, not that I'm seeing. Directed by Ian Softly. Let's take a look at some of the other things he's done. Oh. That was a journey. So, K-Pax and Hackers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, you just went on the same journey I did, didn't you?
Holy shit. Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So, I'm going to say...
I think I can go in this with an open mind then.
Yeah. I mean, K-Pax, to hell with Kevin Spacey, but K-Pax was a good movie.
Okay. Yeah.
And love Hackers. Never not going to love Hackers.
Yeah.
Like, I'm on board for this. All right, goddammit. One more time. What's the name of this freaking movie?
Willy's Wonderland. Starring Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, I see it.
80% of the screen time, never says a single word.
Okay, directed by Kevin Lewis, written by Geo Parsons. And do we know anybody in this movie?
There were a couple. I remember the sheriff looked familiar. I think we've seen her before.
Sheriff is played by Beth Grant, which Donnie Darko, Speed, Little Miss Sunshine, No Country for Old Men. Like she's one of those performers that is just everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was looking at Emily Tosta because she looks familiar. I'm just trying to figure out where I know her from. Apparently, she was in Mayans, which is a pretty strong show. Yeah. I guess that's what we're set up for next week. We will be doing The Skeleton Key and Willy's Wonderland. Yay.